company wanted its new drug on American shelves before Christmas. Across Europe, it was already being sold as a gentle answer to sleepless nights and morning sickness. The paperwork described a remarkably safe sedative. The launch seemed almost inevitable. But in a small federal office in Washington, one signature was missing. It belonged to Frances Oldham Kelsey, and for the next 19 months, she refused to add it. When Frances arrived at the United States Food and Drug Administration on the 1st of August, 1960, she was new enough to describe herself as green. Only a small group of medical officers reviewed new medicines, and the pay was far below what a doctor could earn elsewhere. Her supervisors gave her what they expected to be an easy assignment, a sleeping pill called Kevadon. Its active ingredient was thalidomide, already widely used beyond America. The application was only 4 thick volumes. Under the rules of the time, the FDA had 60 days to object. If the deadline passed without a proper response, the drug could move towards the market automatically. The easiest thing would have been to accept that other countries had already made the decision. Frances read the evidence instead. She was not alone. Chemist Lee Geismar examined the formulation and even found errors in translations from German. Pharmacologist Jiro Oyama reviewed the animal work and questioned how the drug was absorbed. Frances examined the clinical claims. They promised an almost ideal sleeping pill, effective, gentle, and free from the heavy after effects associated with other sedatives. But beneath those claims, she found surprisingly little science. Many of the doctor's reports looked more like testimonials than controlled clinical studies. They described satisfaction. They did not prove safety. So the review team declared the application incomplete. The company sent more information. The team found more deficiencies. The 60-day clock began again, and the telephone kept ringing. Richardson-Merrell had invested in the drug and expected a fast approval. Its representative, Joseph Murray, was increasingly frustrated. Thalidomide had been used in Europe since 1957. From the company's perspective, the FDA was delaying a proven commercial opportunity. Frances later recalled the message stated openly, "We want to get this drug on the market before Christmas because that is when our best sales are." Each request for better evidence meant another season slipping away. Then, early in 1961, a short letter in the British Medical Journal changed the temperature of the review. A Scottish doctor, Leslie Florence, reported painful and sometimes irreversible nerve damage in patients who had taken thalidomide over time. That did not resemble the harmless sleeping pill described in the application. Frances asked for more information. If repeated use could damage an adult's nervous system, what might the drug do during pregnancy, when a developing child could be exposed? The company had no adequate answer. It had not conducted the studies needed to establish safety throughout pregnancy. Frances did not know that thalidomide caused severe congenital abnormalities. Nobody at the FDA had yet proved that connection. Her position was simpler and more important. Absence of evidence was not evidence of safety. In September 1961, the company gathered supportive investigators for a conference. The FDA was treated as obstructive. Frances sat through the pressure until one question cut through the room. Was thalidomide safe in pregnancy? The data were not there. The criticism stopped. Still, the application remained alive. The company continued trying to satisfy the FDA, and Frances continued refusing to pretend that uncertainty had disappeared. Then, on the 30 November 1961, Joseph Murray telephoned. The German manufacturer was withdrawing thalidomide. Doctors in Europe and Australia had linked the drug to a shocking pattern of congenital abnormalities. Frances later admitted she was surprised. Her objections had been built mostly on what the application failed to prove. Now the danger she had feared in theory was appearing in maternity wards. The scale became impossible to ignore. Thousands of children worldwide were born with severe limb and organ differences after exposure during pregnancy. Other pregnancies ended in miscarriage or stillbirth. The United States was not untouched. Although Kevadon had never been approved for commercial sale, Richardson-Merrell had distributed more than 2 million tablets for investigational use. More than 1,000 American doctors had received supplies, often under rules far looser than those governing clinical trials today. FDA investigators began tracing doctors, recovering tablets and looking for exposed pregnancies. Frances later recalled 17 identified American births involving thalidomide, with some of the drug obtained overseas. Her refusal had not created a perfect shield, it had prevented a far larger commercial release. In July 1962, a front-page newspaper story finally made Frances Kelsey's name known across America. The quiet reviewer became the public face of a disaster narrowly limited. 1 month later, President John F. Kennedy placed the nation's highest award for a federal civilian around her neck. Frances accepted it but never claimed the story belonged to her alone. The chemist, the pharmacologist, her supervisors, overseas clinicians and FDA investigators had all mattered. The consequences reached far beyond one drug. In October 1962, President Kennedy signed the Kefauver-Harris Amendments. Drug manufacturers now had to provide substantial evidence that medicines were effective as well as safe. Clinical investigations faced stronger oversight. Serious adverse events had to be reported. Patients in trials gained a right that seems obvious today: informed consent. Modern drug regulation was not created by a moment of brilliance. It was strengthened by a person willing to remain uncertain when everyone around her wanted certainty. Frances Kelsey worked at the FDA for 45 years, yet the decision that defined her career began during her first month, with an assignment everyone expected to be easy. She did not prove the drug was dangerous before anyone else. She insisted that the company prove it was safe, and when the evidence was missing, she left her signature missing too.